Today on Locked On Rockies, make no mistake about it. You can talk about the infield, you can talk about the pitching staff, but in reality, the most important position group, maybe outside of the pitchers for the Rockies, is the outfield.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 15th day of October in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk here. Not only streaming on your favorite streaming services, but we're also on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the importance of the outfield. Purple Rome does a little piece about the what the fourth outfielder the Rockies might have. I kind of want to focus on how important it is for the Rockies to get a strong third season from Nolan Jones. I would argue that on my list of most important Rockies that need to contribute next year, Nolan Jones, he's not number one. He's maybe number three, but he's in the top three most important Rockies next year. And I want to dive into that, and I want to highlight why it's so important that defense matters. And I'll read a text here from my buddy Jambron, longtime friend of the show, longtime member, big time Rockies fan who's always looked into the intricacies and the interesting things of the Rockies. So we'll be going over that. But before we dive into everything today, want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so why is Nolan Jones so important? Because Nolan Jones is such a good complement to Brenton Doyle. When we were really excited by the Nolan Jones-Brenton Doyle combo of 2023, we were seeing just how impactful it can be. When you are able to cover and control and dominate the monster that is the outfield at Coors Field, you're putting yourself in a position that's going to make you that much better at home. When you have Brenton Doyle's ability to track down and cover an insane amount of ground in center field, it's backed up by the fact that you have a strong elite defender. Well, I don't know if he's earned himself into the elite defender category yet, but when you have Nolan Jones, who is a solid, strong defender mixed in with an incredible arm, you're negating so much of what teams, so many things are that can go wrong for the Rockies. You are making the doubles in the gap maybe long singles. You are preventing runners from advancing from first to home and on those extra base hits for people, leaving them stranded at third. Right field is a little bit of a different situation and scenario for the Rockies. I think given the dimensions of Coors Field, the way it's looked with the big tall wall and everything like that, I'm not as worried about right field defense, but I am worried about left field defense. Another part that's wide open, a wall that you have to be able to jump and rob home runs for. So when I think one of the big things that the Rockies were missing this year was not only Nolan, it was just what Nolan Jones brought that first season. Obviously, he has to replicate it. He has to do it again, but this is still a young guy. This is a guy that, is still figuring things out. It is someone that was dealing with injuries. And when you look at it, Nolan Jones started to heat up a little bit at the end of the season here. Last 30 games for Jones, 269 batting average, 340 OBP, and a slugging of 333. Still 28 strikeouts in that time. No home runs to finish the season, but 14 RBI, 11 walks. He did have 25 hits there. And if you shrink the sample size, the last week of the season, he excelled. if Nolan Jones can take the step forward on both offense and defense, and if he's the person that has the Brenton Doyle style development of next year mixed with staying healthy, that will be a real big game changer for the Rockies. This is a guy that can change the narrative when it comes to defense. This is a guy that can be a 2020 guy. This is a guy that has a rocket of an arm. This is why his health is so critical and crucial, because too many times last year, the Rockies were sending out outfields that included both Hilliard and Cave. And you can't be doing that. Or Charlie Blackmon played a little bit of right field, but obviously that's not going to be a factor. I will be completely dumbfounded, shocked if they send Chris Bryant out to right field again. That plain and simply cannot happen. The health concerns with Chris Bryant are far too much to have him being anything outside of a DH with the occasional games at first base to give Tolia an off day or something like that. If the Rockies can get the Nolan Jones of 2023, which, reminder, I just want to go back and tell you where he was in 2023, what he was able to do that season. 106 games played for Nolan Jones in that time. He batted .297, .389 with a .542 slugging and an OPS of .931. I'm going to get the Rockies. Hold on. Team stats up too, just to do a little comparison here as well. There we go. Okay. So if you're looking at, let's just take that line. Let's just take a couple of those lines and compare it to players from this year. Players that the Rockies had on the roster and played a lot this year. Comparing Nolan Jones's 2023 to that. Nolan Jones's 2023, when it comes to the we're just focusing on batting average, OBP, the batting line. We'll get into some of the other stats here in a second. The slugging percentage of .542 of Nolan Jones's 2023 is higher than any slugging on the Rockies this year. Greg Jones has an .800 slugging, and Sam Hilliard finishing at .507, but take in mind how much they did. Nolan Jones's batting average of .297 would have led the team this year. Would have led the team in batting average. The team's his OBP of .389. That would have led the team this year in terms of performance. The highest was, let's see, the highest OBP. It's looking like Jacob Stallings at .357 was the highest OBP for the Rockies. And we already mentioned the slugging. Let's take a look at the OPS. The OPS of .931 for Nolan Jones in 2023. That would have been the most on the Rockies by a lot. That .931 OPS would have been better than Jacob Stallings at .810, but that's over 100-point difference. That's a 120-point difference there when you're talking about it. So what did the Rockies lose in Nolan Jones this year? Arguably their best offensive player. So it's not just the defense that mashes with this. It highlights just how good Nolan Jones was in 2023 and how much of an impact he had on the club. He wasn't 126 strikeouts for him in 2023 for Nolan Jones. That's less strikeouts than Michael Toglia. That's less strikeouts than Brendan Rodgers, Ezekiel Tovar, Ryan McMahon, and Brenton Doyle this year. He finished with 91 strikeouts this year. So clearly, if he had the full sample size, the strikeout bug would have really gotten Nolan Jones bad, and he would have been up there with that and certainly surpassed that 126 strikeout. But 20 stolen bases the Rockies missed out on. Nolan Jones only had 5 this year. Imagine what difference 15 more stolen bases could have been for the Rockies in this season. 20 home runs. Again, the only people to add in to make it so 4 people on the Rockies hit 20 home runs this season. That's what they're missing. 5, I'm sorry, compared to only the 3. That's a 17 home run drop-off for the Rockies and Nolan Jones. the point is, it's not just where he plays and it's not just his defense. It's just if Nolan Jones can get back to that ceiling, you feel a lot better about the Rockies offense. You feel a lot better about the Rockies defense. You feel more confident in this team. And I really do think if that dynamic duo of Doyle and Jones can continue to play up to this, if they can be the leaders of this team, mixed with Ezekiel Tovar's obviously setting that course as well. But you're looking at something that can be really, really critical for the Rockies, really, really important, and can change the game. Can break open games at Coors Field, can make you more effective and efficient. Because I just to compare here, even let's just take a look here at the numbers for Jake Cave and Sam Hilliard, comparing them to Nolan Jones here. Jake Cave this year, 251 batting average, 290 OBP, a slugging of 396, and an OPS of 686. Nolan Jones finished this year the 227, 321, 326, 41. He's not that far off of Jake Cave, and he only participated, and Jake Cave got 43 more starts, roughly 44 more starts than Nolan Jones this year. The difference there isn't great. And then you're talking strikeouts. The big difference is Nolan Jones' strikeout rate much, much higher. But Jake Cave only had 9 more RBI than Nolan Jones did this year. Only 3 more doubles, 4 more home runs. That shows you the drop off. And then let's go to Sam Hilliard here. 239 batting average, 305 OBP, a 507 slugging, and an 812 OPS. And that was only in 58 games. Nolan Jones played more than Sam Hilliard this year. But it goes to show you how much of an impact this guy can have. And it goes to show you why the Rockies should be sticking with Sam Hilliard and not Jake Cave going forward. Let's discuss that. I'll dive into this text message from Jambron here in a little bit as well, all coming up on today's episode of Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes, let me make sure I got it all right. Yes. That includes Gametime. Gametime is the best place for you to go and buy your tickets wherever you need them. And it doesn't have to just be sports. They got you covered for concerts. They got you covered for comedy. They got you covered for stage shows. When you need a ticket, Gametime's got you covered. And there is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. You can get the Gametime Picks curation, where it makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. You can get that all-in pricing feature. Toggle that right when you start. You just click that, and you're going to see all of the cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. My favorite part about Gametime, you're going to get a view from your seat, so you're going to know exactly where you're sitting, and so you know this is what I'm paying for. This is where my money's going. This is where I'm going to catch my favorite team in action. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and more with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot. That's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming, breaking down things Rockies baseball here. And go check us out on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show where Jim Kucera asks, you have to ask the question, if the Colorado Rockies continue on their current path, are fans okay with paying for tickets to watch a fifth place team again? And Jack here, another friend of the show, chimes in and says the opponents are. I think the lingering issue, the lingering consequences of the Rockies being bad is being shown. I think the Rockies are a team that you're seeing the Rockies attendance, especially Rockies attendance by Rockies fans, slipping. I don't have necessarily concrete data to back that up. But Colorado finished in the top, was 15th in terms of attendance this year, with averaging 31,000 fans this year. If you go back and you start looking at it, That's down from 2023, where the Rockies were averaging a 32,000 fans there. You go to 2022, Rockies were a top 10 team in attendance that year, another averaging of 32 plus thousand fans a year. Going back to 2021, obviously the pandemic impacting that and making things different, but the Rockies still another top 10 team in attendance that season, 24,000 average there. And let's go to 2019 before the pandemic year, top six. They had in 2019, and remember how close that was to the postseason. The Rockies had were averaging 36,953 people. So the fan drop off is real. The Rockies attendance is down by nearly 5,000 on average per game. Mixing in with the lack of, and then you factor in the lack of local revenue after the change of local broadcasting. The Rockies' financials have changed dramatically over the last 5 years. Absolutely. So I think fans are already answering that question. I don't think you're ever going to see the Rockies dip below that 30,000 a game, just because it's beautiful. It is the perfect place to go for a summer vacation. There is no reason not to schedule a trip to Colorado to go watch your team play in June through October. Really, it's right. Like, why would you, if you're a fan of these opposing teams, especially teams that don't always go to Colorado with the new schedule, why would you not want to go to Coors Field? Why would you not want to make it a trip to of a place that is considered to be one of the best and most enjoyable spots to watch a game of baseball? There's few places to enjoy baseball. Well, I shouldn't say few places, but a summer at 20th and Blake, no matter the product on the field, is pretty darn good. So just wanted to dive into that there as I know we're talking Nolan Jones in the outfield, but really a little interesting insight there and something we'll elaborate a little bit more on. I'd like to maybe ask some of the people covering the team how much of a focus that is for the teams, for the team as well. Attendance, what is going through the mind of people in the front office? Because I'm curious the state of season ticket holders and stuff right now. We mentioned Jambron here. He is a season ticket holder, and the last few years have not been kind. So speaking of Jambron, let's see here. Three glaring upgrades that my buddy Jambron wants to see. Three glaring upgrades to me are DH, left field, and right field production if we run it back. The lack of WAR from the corners, left field, right field, DH, first base, and third base is quite criminal in the best offensive park in baseball. That's 5 of the best hitter positions, and we get almost no offensive production. That's the whole issue right there. Even McMahon WAR is mostly defensive, and Toglia was about league average hitter to a bit above at first base. DH, left field, right field should be a combined 60 to 75 home run and 105 to 110 OPS plus this year, and that didn't happen. If they run back the pitching, we really need the offense to improve. Our pitching is below average, league worst 84 ERA, and our hitting, as evidenced by a 74 OPS plus, is bottom of the league too. Until we are good or average in either or both of these categories, we have no shot. We can't pitch and we can't hit. It's that simple, and the stats show it. Hitting is where I go. Left field and right field production. Lighting a fire under B-Rod or trading him for a AA starter and going with Amador is the move. First base with Toglia is fine. Third base with McMahon is mid but serviceable. Connor, outfield production is a joke along with DH. Those are for the boppers, baby. I'm watching Giancarlo. I'm watching Stanton, right? Every time I've watched Giancarlo Stanton hit a ball 450 plus feet, 100 plus miles an hour off the bat, I sit there and say, that guy should be the DH for the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies need we're talking about how important it is for Nolan Jones to produce. Just listen to those stats. You need production from these crucial areas. And really, hopefully, now that Toglia has gotten the amount of playing time, the consistent playing time that we were dying for him to get, and his kind of performance, I'm really hoping that he's going to be the one that takes the step forward like Brenton Doyle. The point is, and just kind of why I brought that up, and to just kind of put a bow on the Nolan Jones and the outfield conversation, is you can't just settle for bench replacement guys. You can't just settle for these guys to just fill in and plug and play. Why it was so frustrating to see the amount of Jake Cave we saw last year is he's not producing at the level that you needed to see. You didn't see a lot of Sam Hilliard didn't play nearly the same amount of games, but had better production across the board, mixed in with better, a little bit better defense. I don't think we're going to have time to dive into it. Great piece on Purple Row out today, highlighting the differences between Sam Hilliard and Jake Cave. The point is, production just needs to go up from these guys. If the Rockies can get the Brenton Doyle of last year, and they can get 2023 Nolan Jones, and then they can get the version, a more confident and more comfortable version of Michael Toglia, you're going to see these crucial offensive areas increase. But the fact of the matter is, the frustrating part to take back is we don't know truly what to count on Beck. We don't know what to truly count for with Hunter Goodman and these guys, because we saw so much Jake Cave and Sam Hilliard this year. Is right field going to be open for another player to take? Left field is Nolan Jones's position still to lose. I still think a healthy Nolan Jones and a Nolan Jones that can contribute, he is going to be a game changer for the Rockies. But the Rockies need production. And from the players that they've been going for, they haven't been getting production from these waiver wire pickups and plug and play veteran guys. So just fully commit to making right field the spot for the young guy. And it might not work out in a team that's already setting the expectations of the same type of season as this year. Again, we've already heard quotes that make it feel like it's going to be similar to that. Why not actually fully embrace that position as something for someone to prove it? If you didn't let Brenton Doyle play his defense and try to figure out his offense in that first year, we wouldn't have had Brenton Doyle 2.0. We don't know what a second full healthy season of Nolan Jones looks like for the Colorado Rockies. We don't know what this crop of young outfielders can do for the Rockies. But we've seen the careers of Cave and Hilliard. And while they provide value in different ways and give you depth and veteran depth on your team, you're not going to get to where you need to go if you're going to continue to count on low-risk waiver wire pickups, plug them in and say, hey, it's Coors Field, let's hope that it works. Because if you dive into the numbers, if you look into the numbers of Cave and Hilliard, they don't knock your socks off. And as a team that's trying to figure out what's going forward with a crop of plenty of young outfielders, you can't afford to go through that this season again, doing the same exact thing that you did last year. Health is one thing. Nolan Jones and Jordan Beck got hurt in the beginning of the season, and that definitely derailed things. I get that. But throughout the season, we saw the continued commitment to these players instead of the commitment to the young guys. And that's why when we bring up hesitations about Bud Black, when we bring up hesitations about the current managerial and coaching staffs, these are the concerns. These things, I just am not necessarily sure that these things are going to be addressed. Just kind of where I'm at right now. Outfield is so important for the Rockies, man. I mean, the biggest improvement the Rockies need to make, as we've talked about, is on offense. The pitching has been a problem forever, but right now, my main focus and the thing that I think is going to help the Rockies actually be a pain in the butt for more teams next year is an improved offense that is even better at home. That's the secret sauce to finding some areas of success in 2024. All right, let's take a quick break, and I just want to highlight, man, the playoffs have been good. I know we've kept talking about it a little bit, but I think that we're seeing, and even you can be frustrated with the markets and the teams there, obviously, but you can also be enthused that this opens a good pathway for the Rockies. Sorry, still fighting it a little bit here today, folks. But I want to talk a little bit about the playoffs as well, coming up on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel has got you covered throughout this busy sports calendar. The sports are here, folks. We got Preseason basketball wrapping up for the NBA. That's going to be on the horizon. Hockey is in full swing. WNBA finals going on right now. Baseball playoffs, NFL season. There is plenty of action to check out on America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So you're going to be able to provide yourself the information you need to make the best bet possible. As always, make sure you are betting responsibly. You're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com for $200 in bonus bets guaranteed after your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, you are in the right spot. That's what we do around here, talking Rockies baseball, talking all sorts of good fun here. Read something from the YouTube comments, got a text message from my buddy Jambron. Rockies fans been tuning in and supporting the show big time in the offseason. So shout outs to all of you for continuing to tune in, supporting the show. Really, really do appreciate it. Hey, I don't know about you, but I have been enjoying the playoffs, man. I think it has just been a good highlight of how cool baseball can be. And even with being frustrated by the teams, I think this is a moment that a little reset type moment for baseball and baseball fans. They can sit here and say, this year, there's no excuse about the long bye, right? There's no wild card up. There weren't the big wild card upsets, at least a ton of them that took teams out that were shockers. Of course, there were a couple, but that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, I just think it's so much better for the game when so many teams have a chance. And I know you can get into purist stuff, but it's just cool. And it shows that the format still can work out to producing the best teams in the best situations. I mean, you are sitting at a situation in which you can have the two best teams facing off each other again in the World Series. You also have your big payrolls. You have your big markets. If you're Major League Baseball, the only worrisome scenario you have is Cleveland left. And that being said, that's completely negating a very, very dedicated and passionate fan base in the middle part of the United States. I think this playoffs has done such a good job of highlighting the superstars. They're going way too tough on the Ohtani stuff. I don't need to see Ohtani's reaction on everything. I'm an Ohtani guy. Hate the Dodgers, but I'm an Ohtani guy. But we're getting way too much Ohtani here from the other stuff. But this playoffs is going to help baseball really cement its stars and really kind of show off the great players in the game and the excellence of these teams. These are all really good teams. And when you're really thinking about it, it makes sense that these are the final four teams left. Maybe say what you will about the Mets, but they've been good. There have just been entertaining games, entertaining performances, and it sets the stage and it highlights just how fun and great baseball can be. Just prepare yourself for that Yankees-Dodgers World Series. I still think it's coming, even with the Mets bouncing back and having that big. And that's the highlight, man. The Mets, that storyline has been good. I mean, you don't have to negate the fact that they got a lot of money. I know that, but still, I think the playoffs are working. I think the playoffs have been enjoyable to watch. I'm curious what you think about that. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB. Our guy Sully's got you covered there with all things Major League Baseball. And he'll be breaking down all things postseason. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.